Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad Tehami. In 1947, when the partition of Indian subcontinent took place, India tried to annex unilaterally and illegally the Kashmir territory. And it was met with sheer resistance from within the territory by the natives. It had to go to the Security Council. It was India that went to the United Nations Security Council for the resolution of this matter. And then, interestingly, the Security Council passed certain resolutions and rejected categorically Indian claim on the territory. And ever since, when the Security Council resolutions called for a free, fair and impartial plebiscite in the territory, India had been backtracking from it. And at the same time, India claims to be the largest democracy in the world, but interestingly and ironically, it keeps on not only suppressing the voices, the dissident voices on its own territory, but also it gets offended by the statements of the world leaders. And the most recent example of this is that when Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari and German Foreign Minister Ms. Annalena Baerbock had a joint press stakeout, and German Foreign Minister called for the resolution of Kashmir dispute as per the United Nations Security Council resolutions, and she also called for an intensified role of the United Nations to resolve this dispute as per the United Nations Security Council resolutions. Then the guns of Indian authorities were again pointed towards Pakistan, accusing it of harboring terrorism and being the perpetrator of cross-border terrorism, which has been categorically, once again, been rejected by Pakistan's Foreign Office. And the Foreign Office had to say regarding these unwarranted remarks of the Indian External Affairs Ministry spokesperson as saying that these have exposed the desperation of a country that finds itself increasingly isolated on the issue of its illegal occupation of Jammu and Kashmir and the reprehensible human rights violations being perpetrated by the ruthless forces in the occupied territory. We'll delve deeper into all these aspects. But before introducing our panelists today, we have got the report our production team has prepared that. Let's watch that.
Under the leadership of Premier Shehbaz Sharif and an assertive and progressive approach of Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is treading successfully on the path of a constructive and productive foreign policy. In this regard, the continuum of Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's diplomatic successes is ranging from an assertive stance on the need of catering the climate change while making the world powers like China and the United States to be on a same page for protecting the world from the disastrous global warming, to making the world powers and states realize the need of a just and peaceful resolution of decades-long Kashmiri dispute as per the desires of Kashmiri people. In his latest diplomatic maneuver, Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari undertook a 2-day official visit to Germany on the invitation of German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock. During his visit, he engaged in delegation-level talks with his German counterpart. The two leaders reviewed the whole gamut of bilateral relations and discussed regional and international issues of common interest. These delegation-level talks were followed by a joint press briefing in which a core focus was on issues of Jammu and Kashmir and Afghanistan. The Foreign Office stated that both foreign ministers agreed that there was a role and responsibility of the international community as well as a need for intensified efforts from the United Nations with regards to a peaceful and just resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. This joint statement became the cause of considerable agony for India, and India's Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson showed a considerable displeasure. Pakistan rejected Indian Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson's unwarranted remarks on the joint press takeout of the Foreign Minister of Pakistan and Germany and asserted that India's Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson gratuitous remarks have exposed the desperation of a country that finds itself increasingly isolated on the issue of its illegal occupation of Jammu and Kashmir and the reprehensible human rights violations being perpetrated by its ruthless occupation forces in the occupied territory.
Reprehensible human rights violations at the hands of Indian paramilitary troops stationed over there. Over 900,000 troops have been stationed in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, especially since August the 5th, 2019, when India revoked the autonomy and the disputed status of occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And then there was relentless atrocity and brutality being committed by Indian troops and authorities over there on innocent Kashmiris. Now, let's bring in our panelists. We are honored to have been joined in the studio by Mr. SHAUKAT PARACHA, who is a senior journalist, and we are also honored to have been joined by Lieutenant General retired MOINUDDIN HAIDER, who is a former federal interior minister, former governor Sindh, and a defense analyst. Thank you very much for both of you for being with us on Views on News today. We really appreciate your time. So let's begin the discussion with you, Mr. Paracha. And now, what do you think is the significance of these statements coming from a German foreign minister when she talks about the resolution of the Kashmir dispute in accordance with the relevant UN resolutions?
Thank you very much. And my regard to General Saab sitting in Karachi. I would really appreciate when he will speak. This German foreign minister statement, I can say it's a music to our ears, because it's not the case that after 5th August 2019 that the world was not listening to the Kashmiri voice or what Pakistan was talking about the Kashmiris. They were listening, you know. Human Rights Council of the UN, they came up with a big report. Certainly, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, they were talking about the plight of Kashmiris. And UN Secretary General, he came to Pakistan not this time, 2 years back when he was in Pakistan, soon after this 5th August 2019 measures taken by India. Here, while standing in Pakistan, he very categorically stated that the UN resolutions on Kashmir, they are not rendered irrelevant. They are still valid as they were in 1948. However, the difference at this hour is, this time is, the voice coming over from Germany, Berlin in fact, the voice of Her Excellency Annalena Baerbock, the Foreign Minister of Germany, is that the major capital has spoken. A major capital from within the heartland of Europe, a powerful capital. European Union, well, sovereign, all are sovereign countries, but Germany has a weight, you know. So, a message coming from Germany at the level of foreign minister, and foreign minister of Germany saying that the UN should come into play, there should be a greater role by the UN, and then the Kashmir issue, not only that she is putting it, you know, in the basket of UN, she is saying it is our responsibility, that German responsibility. It means the responsibility of the big powers, the powers of the moment, that they should. I think it's a great victory of Pakistan. It's a great diplomatic victory of Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, that he has led the process to a point where a major capital is speaking out.
Right. This particular point has become worrisome for a lot of people over there in India. When German foreign minister says they think that it is the role and the responsibility of German side also to ensure that they don't talk about only peace in a certain country, but also around the world as per the UN Charter. Let's go to General Moin. So how significant are these statements by German foreign minister regarding the resolution of Kashmir dispute in accordance with the United Nations Security Council resolutions, especially along with Pakistan's foreign minister, Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari?
I think it is extremely significant indeed. And after, I think, a long time, a very clear statement by a powerful country's foreign minister on Kashmir, on the principal stand of Pakistan, that this matter has to be resolved according to Security Council resolutions, which of course India keeps trying and telling people, and mostly people talk of bilateral settlement, some people talk of arbitration, but this is a clear message, I think, a great diplomatic victory for Pakistan and for our foreign minister to achieve this, that somebody coming out openly in a joint press conference and saying it loudly, what is our principal stand. And you can see the significance from the very strong reaction which has come from India, it has hurt them. It has not made them happy. So they, so they feel their diplomatic initiative is failing, and countries are now openly coming out. I am quite sure this is the first drop, and many more people taking lead from German foreign minister will be supporting us on this issue with the principal stand of a plebiscite and resolution of Kashmir. Kashmir's problem is very much alive. The world is very much alive to it, because Indian atrocities have not in any way dampened the spirit of the Kashmiris. And if you are wanting to know which side they want to go, you can see that they celebrate 14 August, their Independence Day, not 15 August, Indian Independence Day. They bury their shaheeds in Pakistani flags, and they openly chant Azadi and Kashmir Banega Pakistan. So this is already a very clear referendum, in spite of 900,000 security forces suppressing them all the time, yet people are coming out with bare hands, with no weapons.
General Moin, your point is well taken. In reaction to this particular statement by German Foreign Minister, there are many top officials, the former top officials of the Indian External Affairs Ministry, who says or have questioned that who has given Germany the role to play when it comes to the resolution of this dispute. So what does that depict?
Well, I think every free nation, an important member of the United Nations like Germany, very important European Union power, they know there is a resolution on this dispute, and they are talking about, on principles, and they are not buying the Indian point of view. And so every country which is a member of the United Nations, well, it is supposed to support the UN resolution. All countries are supposed to provide cooperation and help upholding these principles. So I don't think Indian objection is valid in this case.
Right. Let's take Mr. PARACHA's take on it. Is Indian objection to this particular statement relevant and valid?
As General Saab said, that the assertion by German Foreign Minister, Her Excellency Annalena Baerbock, has hurt. It has pinched, if not hurt, because Indians have been consistently claiming that after 5th August 2019, it's a union territory, and in the very response that you are quoting, they have also termed occupied Kashmir as a union territory of Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir. So the reaction was expected. Indian reaction is not unexpected, but it also has been added with some other factors. For example, the American ambassador, His Excellency Donald Blum, he visited AJK, Azad Kashmir, Azad Jammu and Kashmir. 2-3 days he spent at different cities, and they came up with their own statement where they termed it as AJK. You know, that was also at the back of their mind, that why American press release is terming it as AJK. The point I am trying to make is that these things, what German Foreign Minister has been saying or has said, it's not a kind of knee-jerk reaction to the discussion with Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Rather, it appears to be a well thought out process, after which they are talking. The American press release and the German Foreign Minister. German Foreign Minister was here some times back. She had a similar meetings at the Foreign Office. She had a similar joint briefing with Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, and even in her briefing here, she was very positive about the concerns aired by Pakistan. Indians are reacting, not only that this was a reaction, but even today their foreign minister Dr. Jaishankar ji, he is now pointing out to the world that why you are providing weapons to Pakistan. So, there is lot of problem in the minds of Indian leaders, that why West is talking what Pakistan wanted.
So, Mr. Paracha, when we hear such type of statements coming, especially from the Western world, including the US, because after revocation of Article 370, we saw there were mediation efforts by former President Mr. Donald Trump as well, and this issue was raised at the European Parliament as well as in the UK's Parliament. A lot of other voices, the concerned humanitarian organizations, the human rights organizations had been raising voice. Of course, it was music at that time for our own ears as well. But haven't seen anything substantial happening on the ground as far as the international community's or world powers role is concerned in order to resolve this dispute.
One thing should be very clear, that illegitimacy is illegitimacy, legitimacy is legitimacy. Illegitimate occupation can be there for 100 years, but it remains illegitimate. So, when we used to hear in the past, it means illegitimate phenomenon is there. This is so more special now, because at that time 370 was there, that Jammu and Kashmir, occupied Jammu and Kashmir had a special status, especially 35A was there, that only the Kashmiris, they are master of Kashmir.
Yes.
But with abrogation of these two articles and
the introduction of a new domicile law as well, and giving
that is 35A basically,
yes,
that domicile, property rights, etc., that you are making non-Kashmiris as part of Kashmir.
Turning a Muslim majority
that's
into
all,
a Muslim.
all 35A, that demographic changes that you are talking. Despite the Indian assertions that what they have done is their domestic or internal affair, world is not accepting.
But once they are able to turn a Muslim majority into a Muslim minority, so what's going to happen in the years to come? It is a clear and blatant violation of the international law, including the 4th Geneva Convention as well.
75 years passed, but the Kashmir as it was on 14th of August 1947, it remains today. The same dispute, disputed. And now I am not saying the German foreign minister is saying, but since you say what world can change, I remember in 2003, 2004, General Saab was a federal minister, Minister for Interior. Indian forces were an eyeball to eyeball with Pakistani forces, a single advisory from the Americans to its investor and businessmen, that forced India to pull away its, troops from Pakistani border. When the world powers, I told you, even Security Council speaks or UN General Assembly speaks, is not as compatible a force when a major capital speaks. If Germany, France, United States, Canada, others speak and they threaten their economic, economic empire or their very economy, it will make a difference.
Very pertinent point. Let's take General Moin in the conversation. General Moin, as Mr. Paracha, you've heard him saying that it could be the pressure by the international community as far as when it comes to pressurizing India on the economic front. So there are a lot of things which can be done. Do you agree with this thing? Are the economic sanctions one of those options through which the international community could impress upon India that it should revisit its policy, especially when it comes to IIOJK?
Certainly, certainly, this is a very potent weapon, economic weapons and economic sanctions, or telling them that we will not be investing in India, or the big company will pull out or something. But I see United States reshaping its policy with a subcontinent, and for the first time they have questioned India about buying their petrol from Iran and from Russia. Also, when they protested that why $400 and some $56 million dollars are being given to Pakistan as military aid to upgrade their F-16 fleet, on which India protested, but that protest was set aside. So from that, and the visit of the American ambassador to Azad Jammu and Kashmir is very significant. So these are indicators that there is a certain shift in the policy and the strategic position which India was enjoying and maligning Pakistan. I think there is a reconsideration from the US side, and when that happens, rest of the West follows. So let us hope that out of this something better will come for the Kashmir people.
Right, German Foreign Minister Ms. Annalena Baerbock has also called for an intensified political dialogue between Pakistan and India in order to resolve this matter. But earlier, a couple of days before, we saw Indian Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah saying during a rally in IIO-JK that India doesn't want to talk with Pakistan. So when India doesn't want to talk to Pakistan or doesn't want to come to the negotiating table, so how these calls by the world leaders are going to have any sort of impact?
Yes, the bilateral dialogue and the composite dialogue and India's assertion in the Shimla agreement that we will resolve this matter bilaterally has failed. Of course, there have been many sessions of dialogue with Vajpayee and General Pervez Musharraf and Manmohan Singh, but actually nothing changed on the ground so much, except, of course, at that time they opened up certain routes in Azad Kashmir and through India, Pakistan, and there were movement of people to and fro. But the fact is that if in the other day, in the passing out parade at the military academy, our army chief also said that we want to settle our matters in this region by dialogue and not by force, and we want peace here, and because we are at loggerheads with each other and there is no movement forward like all other regions of the world are progressing, and we are at a logjam position, so dialogue is the only answer. So I am sure if pressure comes on India from various powers, they will come on the negotiating table.
So, General Moin,
it is in their own interest to settle.
Right. So this desire has been expressed a number of times by Pakistani authorities. But on the contrary, we see India doesn't want to talk because Pakistani authorities want the negotiation to start with the resolution of Kashmir dispute. On the contrary, we see India talking about terrorism and accusing Pakistan of being the perpetrator of cross-border terrorism with unfounded and baseless accusations. It points fingers towards Pakistan and poses itself as a victim of terrorism. Whenever Pakistani authorities asked for an actionable evidence regarding this matter, India came up with none. So in this kind of a scenario, how probable do you think the dialogue could be?
You see, there are UNIMOG observers deployed on our side of LOC. India does not let them operate, who can give an independent opinion to the United Nations. And the defense attaches posted in Delhi and defense attaches posted in Islamabad are reporting the real situation as to who is perpetuating the terrorism. What is Kalbhushan? What was Kalbhushan doing here? A serving naval officer. And many of the, what is happening in Balochistan and sometime in Karachi, all fingers point out to India. India cannot point out one such incident in the recent past where they say that Pakistan has interest in their territory. As a matter of policy, we are not doing it at all. So the world is also seeing all this, and India's propaganda will not succeed.
Right, Mr. Paracha, so an Indian Navy serving commander was caught red-handed on Pakistani territory in espionage and sabotage activities, and he confessed to that he was trying to subvert the CPAC, a flagship project of BRI, and he confessed to that. He was given the death sentence. That India went to the ICJ, and then Pakistan had been trying to cooperate on consular access as well. But it was India which was backtracking from that thing also, again pointing fingers towards Pakistan. So no matter whatever the matter between Pakistan and India is, India doesn't seem to cooperate. So what lies at the base of this attitude as far as India is concerned?
The status quo, if remains, it is in Indian favor. So why should they be eager, But for example, the composite dialogue that General Saab talked about from January, 6th of January, when this joint statement between the then late Prime Minister of India, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and General Pervez Musharraf was signed, the composite dialogue continued for 4 years, till Mumbai attacks, you see. And even afterwards, it got slowed, and then with the advent of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, there is no dialogue between the two countries. Very important perspective that Chief of Army Staff General Qamar Javed Bajwa Sahab, he shared while, as General Sahab talked about, while in Kakul passing out parade, that he very categorically stated that we are trying to break the political lock jams in this region, means South Asia, and South Asia lock jam is between India and Pakistan, obviously, Secondly, General Bajwa Sahab very categorically said that let us collectively fight against hunger and disease, and he warned also that our quest for peace should not be taken as a weakness, because this is also important. Pakistan has the capacity to defend itself, and it has displayed, you forgot about Abhinandan, for example, you forgot about Balakot incident.
There are a lot of incidents to be
lot of incidents, you see, the recent one. About Kulbhushan Yadav, Pakistan has been very open. His wife and his mother, Venkata Yadav, they were here, they met him, and Kulbhushan confessed even in front of them that yes, I am a terrorist, I was given a mission and I am here. Consular access, Pakistan even framed a new law. New law has been framed to come up to the verdict of International Court of Justice. So Kulbhushan Yadav issue is there. Pakistan has not handed over back, or Pakistan is not in a mindset to hand.
But the point of concern is that once your serving officer is caught red-handed in espionage and sabotage activities on another country's soil, and yet you have the audacity to accuse the other country of harboring terrorism.
I remember late Sushma Swaraj in Indian Parliament, she said Kulbhushan is son of India and we will bring him back, but Kulbhushan is still in Pakistani custody. If they have the concern, we have the concern, As far as terrorism is concerned, Pakistan has won war against terror, not any other country in the world. Pakistan has sacrificed 80,000, 90,000 or 100,000 Pakistanis, not foreigners, It's the only country which has suffered far higher than any other country in the world.
Exactly.
And the world acknowledges it, world recognizing it. These are the political statements. These statements, are a symptom of frustration, and they are meant for the domestic consumption back in India. When Dr. Jaishankarji says that West is providing weapons to Pakistan, you are also buying weapons from Russia. You are also buying weapons from Australia. Now, even the current scenario, the West coming back to Pakistan, the alienation between Pakistan and United States, the distance between Pakistan and United States as it was 5 years back, it is narrowing down. Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has had a very successful visit to Washington this time, and 2-3 months back he had a very good meeting with the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken in New York. So and the resumption of maintenance of F-16. These all are symbols that the major capitals, they are now listening to Pakistan. Right? German foreign minister has been a classical example, a great diplomatic victory by Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. But Americans, coming up openly and after 5-6 years, this military to military interaction has been increased. And then General Bajwa also visited Pentagon, he had a meeting with General Austin, the Secretary of Defense. So this interaction, cooperation is increasing, and that is worrisome somewhere in Delhi.
Right. General Moin, your take regarding this. When it comes to US approval, as you already mentioned, the approval of 450 million worth to deal towards Pakistan to maintain F-16 fleet over here. And then on the other hand, as Mr. Munir Akram, Pakistan's UN envoy, alluded to the fact that last year India acquired the weapons worth $73 billion. So why this becomes worrisome for India when it comes to the approval of a deal that is just $450 million, and on the contrary it is acquiring $73 billion worth of weapons?
India, I think, is one of the major purchasers of weapons, I think, in the first 3 or 4 in the world. And they have a very large arsenal, and they have a very large blue water navy with aircraft carriers and submarines. And their plea is to the West that please give us weapons. We are going to confront China on your behalf. We are the ones sharing border with them. So what you provide to us, we'll fight for you. Like Ukrainians these days are saying that we will try to hold on the Russian invasion, and of course America is helping them a great deal. Now this question that you have raised again and again, why India says that there will be no dialogue, I think Nehru was told, and Nehru advised at that time, that our position on Kashmir, according to the partition plan of June 1947, is very weak. And what happened in Kashmir by our occupation forces and the standstill agreement and Raja Saab, joining India, he says our position is extremely weak. In any court or in any United Nations forum, we will lose our case. So dialogue will not help us. So keep holding on to it. And that's why that is their policy, what they are trying to do, and they are doing it.
But this particular act by Mr. Nehru has also been criticized by Mr. Amit Shah a couple of years back after the revocation of Article 370. So now, finally, India went to the United Nations. No matter whatever the opposition or the dissident voices from within India were coming at that time, they decided and they went to the United Nations. United Nations came up with certain resolutions calling for a free, fair and impartial plebiscite to give the right to self-determination to Kashmiris. So don't you think India should have abided by those resolutions?
India is not abiding by those resolutions at all. And many times this comes up in the General Assembly, many times this comes up in the Security Council. India defies, like Israel defies the resolutions on Palestine, and the world remains a silent spectator, unfortunately. Someday the conscience of the world will arouse, we hope, and they will side with what is right and not what is might.
Right, German Foreign Minister has also raised another issue regarding the freedom of press and speech, and also explaining that India claims to be the largest democracy in the world, and it must ensure that freedom of speech and press exists over there, and the journalists shouldn't be put behind the bars. We have seen, especially within India, when there were controversial laws being passed by the Narendra Modi government, and also in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the enactment of draconian laws such as Public Safety Act and the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. So there was clear communication clamp down over there. And international human rights organizations had been raising the voice regarding this one as well. What could be done to impress upon India to let the free voices flow?
I think India on this matter is very rigid. It does not allow foreign journalists to visit the occupied Kashmir area. It doesn't let United Nations Military Observer Group, which is also under UN order, to be deployed on the LOC to watch the real situation and see who is the perpetrator of terrorism. It doesn't let that happen. And what to talk of only suppressing journalists? They are trying to suppress for many years the Dalits. And now, of course, what they are doing to the Muslims at large in India about hijab and about other things, and they are passing discriminatory laws about re-registration and new rules and they are bringing Muslims under great pressure, which of course is a great specialty of Modi from Gujarat. He has learned this and he has found this to be very useful to get Hindu vote. But I think the way they are going and the way they are trying to, deal with very large minorities of Sikhs who are holding a referendum in Canada and in United Kingdom, and they are not happy, and so are the Muslims being pressed unnecessarily, being prosecuted there. I think it will erupt someday. India will suffer because of this. You cannot have such large minorities mistreated by a country calling itself very democratic, calling itself the largest democracy in the world. This is not the way to behave.
Right, Mr. PARACHA, when it comes to the freedom of speech and press, so there have been a couple of reports regarding this particular thing by the US State Department as well. It publishes the annual human rights report from the countries from across the world. So there were serious concerns raised in those in that report regarding India's measures in suppressing the freedom of speech, not only in occupied Kashmir, but also within India. So what sort of an impact do you think it would have on the overall social fabric within the Indian society?
Social fabric is disturbed. The secularism or secular face of India is injured at the moment. It's not secular face of India, and I am not saying so. Within India, there are sane voices, and these voices speak out every day about the human rights violations, especially the treatment, inhuman treatment with the minorities. For example, the Registration Act in India, certification of registration, and 4 or 5 million
the Citizenship
Muslims,
Amendment Bill.
NRC,
NRC.
4 or 5 million Muslims, they were rendered citizenless, on the Assam side, on the other side, on the northeastern side. You see, these all developments, they have not given India more respect among the international community. Rather, the Indian own image has suffered as a democratic country, as a country which has norms, traditions, values. Around 5th August 2019, when they were scrapping this 370 and 35A, from that time till today, there is a siege of Kashmir. The expression, whether it's a freedom of expression or it's media or it's the media channels or the international organization, they are not being allowed to work over there, and that has been a matter of grave concern for all over the world. I told you about United Nations Human Rights Commission, its reports. I told you about Amnesty International. I told you about Human Rights Watch. They all have been talking about. And we should not also forget the 2 sessions of UN Security Council taking place after 50, 60 years. You see, these all developments, they amply make it sure that Kashmir is not a part of India, it is not integral part of India, it is a disputed territory, and one day, sooner or later, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, it has to seek a solution on the basis of aspirations of the people of Kashmir.
For the larger peace and stability in the region as well. Mr. SHAUKAT PARACHA, senior journalist, thank you very much for being on the show today. We really appreciate your time, and we were also joined by Lieutenant General retired MOINUDDIN HAIDER on Skype. Thank you very much for your time, for being on Views on News. We really appreciate that. Now, the recent statements coming, especially from an important country such as Germany, its foreign minister saying that the Kashmir dispute should be resolved as per the United Nations Security Council resolution, which becomes irritating and worrisome for the Indian authorities. It clearly shows that under the able leadership of Foreign Minister Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, Pakistan's foreign policy is going on the right trajectory. With this note, we come to the end of today's Views on News. Until the next episode, take good care of yourselves.